When you're top of the funnel, you want lifetime forward looking
Yeah.
because you were the one that got them brand aware.
The only thing that matters the results, data, data, data. Data is actually what helps to drive success.
We tie customer lifetime value back to top of the funnel because that's the hardest thing to do and it's the most valuable thing we can help for you.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. For those of you who are watching this podcast, you see my shirt says results. I'm a firm believer that there are reasons and results. The only thing that matters are the results. Data speaks more than reasons and more than guesses. When you have the data is most important. It allows you to do more of what's working, less of what's not. So many times as business owners, we just spend an inordinate amount of time just trying to make things right, make it perfect and whatnot. But really, the secret to generating success is putting something out there. Just good is good enough, putting it out there. See what the data says. As that data, you improve, tweak and improve, and you're going to find that the people that take the approach that I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this for about 15 years, they tend to outperform everybody else who spends way too much time trying to make it perfect, only to then put it out there and not have the data to know, again, what's working, what's not working. Data is king, and in the world of AI right now, we don't have an excuse for why we can't have good data. The tools, the resources, everything is available to us. But then again, the problem is where we source that data is often in the wrong place. So I went ahead and I decided we need to bring in one of the leading experts when it comes to good data. Somebody who's taken a different approach than something you may have seen before. And I think you're going to like today's episode, especially money. If you like money and you want more of it, you're going to like today's episode. So the CEO of Wicked Reports, Scott Desgrosseilliers. Did I say that right? Desgrosseilliers?
You nailed it, man. You nailed it.
Woo! Nice. All right. Another win for the day. There we go.
When we were talking at the beginning about getting the right data and waiting till perfect, it reminded me of, I talked to the guy, I think he's kind of like the godfather of the video sales letters, John Benson.
Oh, yeah.
I use his AI product, and so I got to know him. He's a customer of mine as well. And he said, I have an info product I'm working on right now. And he said that on average, it takes them, and they do this all day, every day, 13 iterations to get the webinar script to convert.
Amazing.
And that's someone that's converted over 500 million in video sales letters with all supplements and weight loss and all kinds of very hyper competitive niches. And so that made me feel better when mine didn't take off right away on this particular product. He's like, oh yeah, we never get it right the first time. You get the data and then you just keep tweaking it and checking the results and tweaking it and changing your hooks and checking your view time, all the different stats that go into a video sales letter. So I was reminded of that with your opening statements.
I'm glad you brought this up. And I'm actually very happy you brought this up because too often people give up after the first or second or even the third iteration and they draw incorrect conclusions. I once had a mentor tell me, you're the closest you'll ever be to success at the moment you want to quit more than anything else in the world, right? Quora actually flew me out to their offices many years ago. I happened to put together a marketing funnel that was outperforming two of their marketing funnels, and they couldn't figure out how this guy this guy working out of his home office is beating this, billion-dollar company with copywriters and towers all over the place, right? So they flew me out there. We sat down, we met with them, and a brilliant company. Agora, I'm certain.
Yeah.
Brilliant company. And one of the parts that just knocked me off my chair is when they said, if statistically speaking, the majority of the sales letters and the efforts and everything they put out there will fail. The majority. They spend more money on copywriters than any other company that I'm aware of. They have some of the most sophisticated training, some of the smartest people in the world, but it will fail for exactly the same reason that you're talking about, Scott. Now, when they say fail, that just means, okay, this didn't work, let's put another one in place. And failing might mean that they got a 2-to-1 ROAS instead of maybe something bigger, right? It just didn't meet their metric. But it comes down to testing. Right? It's that testing, it's that tweaking, it's that testing and that tweaking. But we're never going to know this stuff if we don't know the data. But even still with the data, we have people that will just take data as a whole. They'll just be like, I'm gonna put out a sales letter. I'm gonna drive traffic, and then if it doesn't close deals, then the whole thing is a failure,
Yeah.
right?
Well, there's all the different steps. You got to get your awareness piece right,
Eggs.
then your lead gen. It's the steps of the funnel, and each one has a different approach and has different metrics. With our attribution software, we're looking at different columns of data, different attribution models, ways of keeping score of how that marketing's performing. Depends on what you were trying to do. It totally changes the rules of the game and how you keep score, how long the games run. Just like you're trying to, you hear a football game, there's offense, defense with individual players, passing game, run defense, all the different stats that go into it. And so which ones you should focus on. I mean, yeah, ultimately return on ad spend and your effort is what you want, but there's all the different little components along the way that lead to success or not.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go into that, right? Because from all the years that I've been doing this, it's never been all of it doesn't work. It's never been all of it doesn't work. In fact, more often than not, it's usually one piece that doesn't work. And then 85% of it actually works out perfect. But it might be like the one piece that doesn't work or two pieces that doesn't work, but everything else is fine. But we'll throw the baby out the bathwater because it just didn't give us the numbers that we want. So let's talk about a paid marketing funnel. And you could use any example that you want, maybe one that you're most familiar with. Let's just take a paid marketing funnel. And let's talk about what are all the variables in a paid marketing funnel, starting from the traffic, right, that could impact whether or not a funnel is successful or falls flat.
Sure. Let's look at e-commerce. I have a framework behind this, and what we're trying to do is get you to a one-word decision: scale, chill, or kill.
I feel like
Scale
that's a game maybe the kids are playing too, right?
Scale being the fun one, spend more money because you're making a great return. Kill meaning if I don't fix something, I'm going to need to stop. But usually there's something to fix, so it doesn't mean kill the campaign completely. It means, go fix something. Chill's kind of nice. It means I can continue spending the same amount. I can't spend more, but I'm getting the right return to kind of keep the lights on, pay the bills. It's not going to make me rich overnight, but it's a solid foundation. Plus, chill's kind of nice. I mean, as marketers, and business owners, there's always tons to do. So if you can be told, hey, I can chill on this, that's, one less thing on your to-do list.
Exactly.
Which is nice, because otherwise you get digging into the numbers and you start, messing with something that's already working that, we don't want you doing that generally. The algorithm's happy. You need to leave it alone. But for starters, it starts by knowing what your intention is in your marketing funnel. I mean, the overall intention of the funnel is sell stuff. But at each particular stage, you have a different intention of what you're trying to do. At the top of the funnel, you're trying to acquire new visitors that later convert.
Yep.
And so for attribution, that means let's look at the first click that happens or any clicks that happen before they show up in your CRM. Often Klaviyo, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, one of those.
Yep.
Because if they haven't made themselves known yet, until they've made themselves known, they're cold.
Yep.
Even if they've clicked once or twice, a sort of heard of you. And so that particular focus or scoreboard, if you will, is we're looking at the first touches and mapping them eventually to revenue. But we're also looking at what percentage of new visitors are coming. Because you think when you're targeting cold traffic that you're getting all new visitors. And in actuality, there's a lot of settings in Google. We'll just focus on Google and Meta. I mean, there's other ones that are, Pinterest can be great as well. But Google and Meta have settings that if you're not careful, they say they're going to help you. Hey, we're going to expand your audience to help you out. Or in Meta, it says, hey, the AI is going to, use an AI audience that's going to make your world wonderful. What it really does is retarget your existing visitors and just spend more of your budget. And so at the top of the funnel, we want to look at the new visit percentage and make sure the people showing up are actually new. Because if not, you have a traffic problem.
Yeah.
You think you're getting new people and you're showing messaging and hooks related to brand new visitors, but they're not new visitors. So it's going to hurt your costs significantly. And then we're going to want to look at the new visit to conversion rate for the people that are new. Are they converting or not? And you want to segment your traffic by how aware they are to your brand, because that gives you, when you just pile it all in, there's wildly different behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have your repeat customers showing up and doing great, it'll skew your, but then you're like, geez, my ROAS in platform looks great, but my top line revenue isn't growing. It's because these ad platforms are claiming all the credit for the same sale. Like you actually might have a great email game and you're closing people on email or on the phone or whatnot, or SMS. In e-commerce, usually email and SMS are really strong at the bottom of the funnel. But then what happens is then all the retargeting ads take credit for it and all your budget goes there, and then you don't grow because you're not spending on the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
So I'll stop there for any commentary, or let me know if I'm like on the right track here. But that's what I see with e-com. It's top of the funnel is the most important thing to get right. And it's the most challenging because the algorithms usually work against you by turning it into retargeting.
And you're right, actually. Well, and here's the interesting thing, right? So Gartner did a study a while back, and what they showed is that clicks actually had a negative 0.1%, negative 0.1. So let me just rephrase that. The odds of them buying once they clicked on an ad was actually negative 0.1%, right? So when you think about that, it's like, wait a minute, negative 0.1%. So they're almost better off not clicking the ad. But what it's actually not that they're better off not clicking the ad. It's just them not buying right now, because we know that our buyers are researchers. They go through the cycle of exploration and evaluation. So clicking on the ad might have actually been that part that ignited their discovery, right? It ignited their interest. And then all of a sudden, now it's up to you to stay in front of them and track them omni-channel across platforms to be able to get them in that moment of truth. And this is where Wicked Reports, I believe, really does shine, because a lot of different analytics, they will go ahead and they'll focus on last click. But we know that it's never that clean. In fact, prior to maybe 2019, we were much more into this, this buyer's market that was a little bit more straight line. Wasn't quite straight line, but a little bit more straight line. Buyers were less discerning. They turn around, they click, they bought. It was a little bit easier. They looked at 17 different sources of information on average in 2017, but then 2021 went up to 27. Research is indicating somewhere around 36 different sources of information right now. So let's just think about that. 36 different sources of information. There is no chance in hell that we've got a straight line buyer anymore.
Yeah,
it is a very, very much. I love all these, marketing gurus and whatnot that show this funnel, this big, the typical funnel that you see, like an oil funnel. And they're like, hey, this is your marketing funnel. That funnel, take a guess on when that funnel was actually, when that was first created. Just take a guess.
Man, I'm going to say 2003.
And you would think, because that's when it was really, made popular, and most people would say that. Would you be surprised to learn that was actually originally designed in the late 1800s, and it was only refined once more, and I think it was either 1924 or 1928, refined once more, and that was it. But think about it. Back in the 1910s, you'd look at the ad in the newspaper, there'd be 4 competitors, you'd pick the nicest looking ad, you'd write a check, you'd go in the funnel, all the way down the funnel, and you'd purchase. Mm-hmm. And it was a very straight line, and it was very clean. But then later down the road, Google turned around and they go, let's figure this out. Actually, we have all this data. Let's take a look at all this data and let's see what the buying funnel actually looks like. And that's when they discovered, wait a minute, this is messy as all heck. People come in, they stay in the cycle of exploration and evaluation before they eventually purchase. So if you think that you're going to turn around and you're going to run an ad and people are going to click on the ad, they're going to go right to your landing page, and then they're going to purchase, well, you're stuck in the 1920s for our listeners, right? Because it's a lot messier. But to Scott's point, there's so many different things that go on. You got to know what's working, what's not working in order to maximize that funnel. And for most people, we don't have direct line of sight. We don't have any line of sight. We don't know what's working. We don't know what's not working. So then we end up having to rely on, for a lot of people, they rely on Google Analytics. But Scott, somehow, somewhere, you discovered that Google Analytics was limited. And
yeah, it's limited in a lot of ways. One way is that their definition of a new user is a few months in the past. So if someone, particularly with anyone out there with a longer sales consideration cycle, and if people take a break from your website, like they're not going there, every couple
Yeah.
months, they're considered a new user. And then when they show sales, they don't differentiate new versus repeat customer, which is a massive problem because new is what you need to, your paid advertising needs to get new customers in.
Yeah.
So once you get new in, you can upsell them, resell them, and all that good stuff on your own, or very cheaply, at least with the paid ads. But when they blend in the new and the repeat, you can't. The symptom of that is if you're seeing great return on ad spend and you raise the budget and your top line revenue doesn't grow, and by the ratio of what you raised,
Yeah.
basically in the platform.
So in
That's
other
why
words,
that's happening.
just to clarify, you raise your budget by 20%, but your top line revenue doesn't go up by 20%. There's an issue there. That's what,
Yeah, and then the ROAS in the platform still shows it's rosy, but that means that one, they're stealing credit, or two, they're taking credit for repeat customers, and then it's almost like your bidding pixel gets like a disease, just addicted to the quicker conversion, because you hire it for a job, and if the algorithm is telling it, hey, I want quick conversions, then that's what it focuses on, and you got to really know what you're doing to steer it back towards the top of the funnel where all the hard work is. Because a lot of people, I mean, if you're so back to our e-commerce brand, everyone's going to have abandoned cart retargeting and
yeah,
viciously on, because that works great.
yeah,
And then there's I visited the site, but I didn't put anything in the cart. That's kind of like the middle of the funnel.
yeah,
Or I went there and I opted in because I know you're going to email me a discount.
yeah,
Or I abandoned the cart on purpose
yeah,
just to try to get an extra 10%. Or a lot of people do a lot of e-com will do the games, or they'll like spin the wheel
yeah.
and submit your email, find out a price. So that's like when you move to middle funnel. But all the work is getting qualified leads there. That's where the majority of your budget needs to be, at least 50% on the top of the funnel, cold traffic, because it's the hardest to convert. It's the longest to convert, and it's the hardest to track because the trail is tricky. That's what we specialize in, because and particularly now with AI shopping coming out, everyone's going to be chattering away in Chat GPT, but they still got to get aware of your brand.
Yeah.
And so that's where we try to focus on. That awareness at the top is just makes or breaks these brands. You can only retarget so much. You can retarget the heck out of everyone that knows you. Eventually, you got to get more fresh eyeballs in that funnel.
And think about it, right? Charlie Munger talks about if you want to know, what somebody's going to get paid, look at the way of their, look at their incentive. And I also kind of look at it the way, Google, like they have an incentive to track every conversion, even if they know damn well that the conversion maybe didn't finish with them, right? Or, so they may go over to, it might actually, you could get two conversions. You could get a conversion on Google and a conversion on Meta, and you could turn around and both are saying, no, that's mine. And then you're sitting there as a business owner going, all right, well, which one of you guys are going to get the credit? Like, come on now. Now, they both have influence, which is important to know. Like, they both have influence, but from a data perspective, especially, it's one thing if you're only spending a few $1,000s a day or a month, but as your company scales and now those numbers get bigger and you're adding more and more zeros towards the end of that number, it's like a fighter jet. You're 1 degree off of the direction you want to go. It doesn't take long before you're miles away from your target, So what Scott's really set up for is like making sure that the moment you start going 1 degree off, the alarms are set to go, yeah, get back, right? And make sure you have a much clearer line of path over to that target. Now, I don't often or really ever promote specific products on this podcast because it's not really the intent for me to promote products. People are here because ultimately they want valuable advice. But then there are resources and there's tools that I feel that, it's not really about promoting a specific product. It's really about, hey, you got to go from X to Y. There are free tools available to you. And, you should have Google Analytics and you should have console and everything else set up like you should. But then if you want that little bit of an edge or an advantage, and I don't get anything, I'm not an affiliate of Wicked Reports or anything else. Like I don't get anything, but Wicked Reports, that gives you that edge to make that the extra money just by having better data, right? Data is so critical. I can't emphasize it enough. So, in a rare turn of events, because again, I never do this, right? What I'd like you to do, Scott, is I want you to pitch us on Wicked Reports. Like, to tell our users like Wicked Reports and why should they consider Wicked Reports?
Well, at the end of the day, we can save you 2 hours per day of expert data analysis with our AI that will distill your marketing advice down to one word: scale, chill, or kill. And when it is a kill, which is often, our AI will diagnose and tell you how to improve it. Because the issue is it's always either traffic, creative, or budget. It's one of those three areas. So we have 200 and something data points. We distill them into those three buckets and just pluck the most relevant one for the given issue or scale opportunity you have and hand it to you on a platter. So rather than, you don't even have to go slice and dice the data. We'll pick the right attribution model for you based on your financials you put in for your cost to acquire a customer or your ROAS goal. And then you just tell us what you're trying to accomplish with each campaign. And our AI takes it from there. And just, it's like having a data analyst on demand working for you a couple hours a day, telling you what to do.
Now, there's a lot of
That's really was always my vision of the product, was to always know that we could give you all the potential in your data wouldn't be missed. And now it's not, thanks to AI. So it's nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's a lot of people that I know in this industry that are top in their game, and they use Wicked Reports too, and so there's a reason for that. But there's so many other data platforms as well out there, and I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to shit on any of the competitors and so forth. But there are so many other data platforms out there. What really makes Wicked Reports different?
Well, we've been using first-party data conversions, which means your real sales or CRM leads, since 2014, before first-party data was a thing. Yeah. I had patents pending in it, which it's tough to get a data patent, it turns out. Yeah. Although I did invent the field. I technically invented first-party data attribution, but I only got prior art when it comes to the patents. Our attribution is transparent, so we're always going to prove what we're telling you. Other places have black box models and they just argue our black box is better than yours. Ours is all transparent. So we're going to show you why we think things always, using the data as evidence for why we're advising you, meaning down to the order IDs. If we tell you, hey, this has 30 sales and Facebook says 3, we'll show you the 30 sales in your CRM and the clicks that led us to attribute it to Facebook. So it's a complete open book.
Got it.
Because like with Cheech and Chong, as one of our case studies, Mark Cuban on Twitter had said, well, now X had said, Cheech and Chong, I don't care how much you advertise me, I'm not going to buy. This proves that advertising doesn't work on X. And then the X representative went to Cheech and Chong and said, oh, how come you can spend this on X so well? And they said, well, we have Wicked Reports. We see that the sales come in from the ads. So, we don't. Mark Cuban, nice. Very successful elsewhere, doesn't know what he's talking about in this case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing too is Mark Cuban might say that, right? But we know marketing is a function of how you create, capture, and nurture that demand, right? And so your platform allows for that create, capture, nurture demand. But sometimes, you're never going to get 100% buyers, right?
I mean, if his pool of people, let's just say they're doing 50 to 60-year-old males that have a certain income level, enough of them are buying Cheech and Chong, there's going to be a few that don't fit, but that doesn't mean that the audience is wrong because one very public target didn't like it.
But you know what? They actually did win because they got a shout out. Right? Yeah. They did win.
Yeah. We're trying to make attribution useful, and we tie customer lifetime value back to top of the funnel because that's the hardest thing to do and is the most valuable thing we can help for you. Is because in the top of the funnel ads, like you mentioned earlier, they might not look good in the platform. The platforms like Facebook's going to show all the bottom funnel stuff working well, and the top of funnel stuff isn't going to look that good in their own platform. Yeah. So we're actually giving them usually proper credit, but where it really belongs, not on the last step of a 7 to 50 step journey. Yeah. It's like those first couple steps are what really matter the most. And so that's why we're steering your attention that way, and also using revenue as a guide revenue attribution credit as a guide on where to allocate your budget.
In the attribution window for Meta and Google, it's still 28 days, right?
Correct.
So for those who aren't familiar with what that means that they're only tracking the conversion 28 days. So in other words, if on the 29th day, if you clicked on it 28 days ago and on the 29th day you buy, then Google's not taking credit, neither is Meta. But what is the attribution model now for Wicked Reports? How long does that go?
We have lifetime either direction, lifetime back from the order, lifetime forward from the click.
Got it.
So, but sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. When you're top of the funnel, you want lifetime forward looking.
Yeah.
Because you were the one that got them brand aware. And then if there's let's say you're an e-com supplement brand out there or some other subscription, I mean, lifetime value can be through the roof for these people, $100 for pills, but you're doing it, 3-4 years, $3,000-$4,000. And that first click is what really enabled that to happen.
Yeah.
You still needed to then close them with product reviews and, actually have a good product. That matters as well. But that stuff is a lot easier to do once they're already product aware. It's much easier to retarget and convert.
We know that 4.5%, I'm sorry, let me go back, 7.5% of marketing qualified leads. So, these are people who haven't identified, or they have identified themselves. Usually it's an email address or whatnot. But 7.5% of marketing qualified leads will purchase between 0 and 90 days on average. But it's actually 42.5% that will purchase between 90 days and 2 years from now. In general, what we found in our own data analysis, and then shortly thereafter, Marketo ended up putting out a report that showed very similar data around the same lines. So it's really fascinating. So, again, it goes back to this idea of buyers are researchers and buyers are researchers. And that's MQLs, but you're going to have even more people that haven't even entered their email address, especially in e-com, where, be looking around before they do that. So having that longer attribution window is going to get you a better understanding of what works and what doesn't work. Interestingly enough, and I think it's important for our listeners to know, so I was working with a client on a big marketing funnel. And in this marketing funnel, it had multiple different stages. And on this one particular video, it wasn't converting, but people were watching a minimum of 75% of that video. It was costing them like pennies to get 75% of a video actually watched. And that video was like 3 to 4 minutes long, and people were just watching it and watching it and watching it. And so the client says, we're gonna pull that down. I said, well, why would you pull that down? And because we're not getting the conversions. And I said, but you're getting the consumption. See, consumption drives conversion. You're getting the consumption. We don't want to pull that one video down. No. We're wasting money. People are clicking, they're watching. When the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone and everything else, and everything comes together, they pull that one video out because they think they're saving money. What do you think it actually does to conversions?
Yeah, probably tanked it. They couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, well, I told you why. It's, because it's consumption that drives conversions. We can't forget that. And so, that's, again, one part of the data. Like, data is a whole picture. It's not as simple as did they buy when they visited the site, right? The whole picture. And it's really, really, really important. We can't emphasize it enough. And I hope that what our listeners are discovering is that the buying journey is messy, super messy. The buying journey is long. Buyers are researchers, but the data can make the difference between you absolutely freaking crushing it and not. And it comes down to the data. We tell our clients all the time, when they launch any campaign whatsoever, the first 90 days, they are investing in data. Don't just ignore what the outcome looks like. Ignore the outcome. Who cares if they purchased? If they didn't purchase, how much money you're making, the whole deal, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is what is the data that you're pulling during that first 90 days. Because at the end of the 90 days, you play your cards right, then the following 90, that's when you're going to start seeing some numbers. And that is a continuous optimization. Amazon's still optimizing everything that they do. They never stop. Mm-hmm. Right? A fun game, man. It's a mindset of always trying to beat yourself, not, because sometimes you'll see industry benchmarks, like, oh, I'm not doing the same as those industry benchmarks. Yeah. It's you versus yourself every day and every week and every month. We had, for conversion cycles, we pull in all the CRM and cart data to calculate what your current conversion data is. Mm-hmm. Like, we have a really popular brand on someone doing really well on Pinterest. selling expensive furniture. In the average conversion time, 62 days.
Well,
So even if though they're doing well, like if they get skittish after a week or two,
yeah,
they wouldn't be doing
yeah,
well. They gotta be in it for the longer term, which isn't always sexy or fun to hear, but
right.
it's what wins. In there, if you get a 4-figure product you're selling online, you've got a multi-month conversion cycle, whether you know it or not, most likely.
Now, I know you've talked a lot about e-com. Does this also apply to, say, B2B and agencies and whatnot?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're B2B, and there's a definite, our 45 days is our conversion time.
Got it.
So yeah, it does in everything because people are comparison shopping. They're gonna, then the timing has to be right. There's always those internal things in a company that are going on for B2B before they're going to pull the trigger on something. Particularly, it's usually a larger investment, B2B. Right now I'm shopping for a couple different systems for our company, and I'm taking demos, I'm prowling
Yeah,
around, I'm looking at the case studies, then I'm deliberating with other bets I could place whether I'm going to invest in this particular one or not. So there's like deliberation cycles that don't even have to do with the product
yeah,
itself.
right.
It's going to drag out the cycle 3 weeks to a month just because of our internal stuff going on. So yeah, no, that's what it's always shocking to people. So that's why it's one of the first insights we send them is here's your current conversion time. And therefore we want you to actually use double that time before you're going to make a budget decision.
Yeah,
Because so e-com's usually a pure e-com under $100 and under is
yeah,
probably 2 weeks. So you really should wait a month on your top of the funnel because you got to buy the people interest and awareness. Then you got to let them go through the multi-week steps, and you got to have a couple weeks of people cohorts going through that to then see if it works.
sure.
It's
So does your platform then also, I know, Meta and Google, those are the two of the big ones. Does your platform also track behaviors on LinkedIn? You mentioned X, it tracks X, but
no, we do Pinterest, Snapchat, YouTube, Microsoft. We don't do LinkedIn though.
not LinkedIn yet.
No, not yet. We've been really focused on e-com. So now Meta is very dependent on signal now. The signals it receives from you and the conversions drive what the AI does.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to prevent their AI campaigns from bidding on repeat customers, we will pipe in just new customer sales. So we'll segment your sales, send up new customers, and then you can pick that as a goal in your campaign as the conversion goal,
Yeah,
action, if you will. And then the AI will learn, oh, wait a minute, this pool of existing customers, I shouldn't be targeting them. Even if you try to tell it,
yeah,
it still likes to do it. So we force it through that way. That's one that, it drives down new customer costs and increases new customer count, which is what you need from Meta.
got it.
So that's the one that we've done the first really deep the second one. We do the same with Google. We do update the click 90 days post click with value. So if you get someone and they buy a couple times, we'll keep telling Google, hey, click ID 123 was really worth
Yeah,
3x what we thought, so that it'll tune its bidding accordingly.
got it. Cool. All right. So if there was one question that I could answer for you that could help you accomplish any of those business goals, what would it be?
It would be, would you think that it would be more valuable for us to focus on partnership marketing, influencer, or just pure pay-per-click?
What a great question.
Because I'm wrestling with that one right now.
Awesome. I think
It's top of mind.
that's a fantastic question. So Richard Branson famously said, when you know how to leverage momentum, that you will leave your competitors trailing in their wake. And so the greatest source of momentum, or the fastest source of momentum, ultimately, would that be of partnerships. It can sometimes take almost as much time to sell one partnership as it ultimately would to sell a one-off deal. And so the beauty about partnerships is that you sell one, and then they'll turn around and they become almost like your best salespeople, right? And so they'll turn around and they'll continue selling for you every day, every week, every month, every day, every week, every month, and boom, 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 they continue to sell. Now, when it comes to partnerships, though, structuring that partnership is actually going to be the difference between a partnership that actually is going to crush it for you and a partnership that falls flat. The partnerships that fall flat are generally, hey, I'm looking for somebody to help refer people over to Wicked Reports. That's ultimately going to be the partnership that falls flat. The partnership that actually ends up crushing it for you is by asking yourself a different question. How do I make a meaningful impact into the partner's KPI? So how can I make a meaningful impact in the partner's KPI? When they realize that any commissions that they earn as a result of sending them from Wicked Reports is icing on the cake, because ultimately having people work with Wicked Reports ultimately either retains clients longer or helps them generate bigger results or all that other fun stuff, then what ends up happening, you become a pillar in their organization. Your sales for you helps them get more of what they want. And then it becomes really a massive source of that momentum and then sales. Now we talk about it's important to have multiple different spokes in the wheel. So we don't want to just have one spoke in the wheel. Partnerships is one. Of course, you still want to do the one-offs and influencers is also good, but partnerships would be great, especially those triple win partnerships. And they expand on just a triple win partnership real quick. And this obviously can go into much bigger one if you look at Dropbox and PayPal. The reason why Dropbox and PayPal, one of the reasons why they took off massively is they had this triple win. They said, you know what? If I end up referring somebody over to you, then, well, obviously I get a client. I refer somebody over to you, I get a commission, so I win. Somebody else gets a client, they win, blah, blah, blah. But the loser ends up being the client itself, the buyer. The loser gets a buyer because they didn't get any benefit. Dropbox and PayPal figured it out, and Uber as well, a few others. They said, you know what? When you refer somebody over to us, you're going to get a benefit and they're going to get a benefit. Now everybody wins. The buyer, the person who does the referring, and then the company itself. And so when you're forming that partnership, if I go to my clients and I go, I want you to really consider Wicked Reports, that's great. But if I can go to them and I go, hey, I want to introduce you to Wicked Reports, they happen to give me $100 discount, whatever it is, $100 discount off your first month, just as a result of our relationship. It's something you're not going to be able to get anywhere on the website. You made me a hero, so it actually makes me look good. You made them a preferred benefit, so they're psyched. And then, you get a client, and that's good.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate it.
Now, my last big question for you is, this is the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. What would you say is your biggest, best tip for our listeners who want to take their business beyond seven figures?
Never stop focusing on measuring and improving your customers' satisfaction. Because whenever I got distracted by being a CEO and doing fun CEO things, we would get distracted by things. And it wasn't just are we sure our customers are happy and using the system correctly? Because we would throw in all these new bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just made it more complicated, not more helpful. It was more helpful, but we didn't think about how do we know for sure the client is using this correctly and getting the value. And so if I could go, so that we've renewed our focus on that, so it's top of mind for me. But it frustrated me that we lost track of that, because before it was always just working very hands-on with each client. And do you know how to use the report? What are you going to do with it? What do you see? What do you not see? And then furiously taking notes and then tweaking things as we heard. So that would be the thing that has always helped us grow, is just relentless focus on our customers being happy Wicked Reports customers.
Entrepreneurial ADD, it's a real thing. We all have
it's
it.
A real thing.
We all have it.
More schemes I had, fortunately some of them work out, but yeah, it's tough. You get all the freedom you want, and then it's also you need something to ground you.
Yeah, you're right. Now, we've talked about Wicked Reports. So we mentioned wickedreports.com. So, they can obviously go there and learn more about Wicked Reports at wickedreports.com. Anywhere else that we should send them? You did happen to mention that you had a framework or some sort of guide.
Yeah, 5forces.com, either the number 5 or spelt out.
Okay.
Is my attribution framework course. If anyone's into that type of thing, anyone in a data analytics will like it. It's making attribution useful. So it's a concise course of about 3 hours.
Oh, super cool.
And then on LinkedIn, I'm available, Scott Desgrosseilliers, Wicked Scott, Wicked Reports Scott, usually track me down that way.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up today's episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. Data. I just don't say data for the sake of the podcast. I wear it on my shirt. It is results. There are reasons and results. The only thing that matters are results. Data. Data is actually what helps to drive success. It's the navigation system behind those companies that are growing consistently month after month, year after year. You don't want to fly blind. You want to have the right data. The better the data, the better the decisions. Make better decisions and help you make more money. I hope you found today's episode helpful. This was great. And then for those of you who are looking for additional tips, strategies, and information to grow your company faster, more predictably, and then less dependent on you, check us out over at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. This is Charles Gaudet with my friend Scott from Wicked Reports. I'll see you in another episode. Thank you very much.